Hi everybody, Kimberly here. So I'm making a video. I decided to start stepping up my game on my passion project, which many of you know is endometriosis. So I am putting out a video right now. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about it, share my story, and then also some of my intentions moving forward with what I want to do. So with that said, let's get started. First off, I'm going to explain to you what endometriosis is really quick. So endometriosis is technically tissue similar to the lining of the endometriosis, the endometrium. Not exactly the same, some people mix that up. The tissue is found for some reason outside of the uterus. It attaches to other organs and tissues, specifically in the pelvic cavity, such as bowels, ovaries, fallopian tubes, bladder, even tendons, sciatica nerve. It's actually been found anywhere in the body. There's been a lot more diagnosis and stories. I'm seeing at least awareness that it is reaching lungs and diaphragm and this area in people. So, and I say people because it is a female disease, but with a lot of the people who identify differently or who were born differently and have changed sexes. You maybe were born a woman and decided to be a man, but you still have those same kind of cells, so you may be a man living with endometriosis. So we can't be specific to only women. So with that also said, I will tell you endometriosis is like cancer. It doesn't directly kill you, but it can indirectly. Organs shutting down, malnutrition, a lot of other complications, suicide, mental health, big one. So endometriosis right now, it has no cure. There is no cause. It's been around for a long time and they still don't know. There's several theories out there of how it's caused, a lot of genetic research right now, but that isn't always the case for a lot of women. They don't have a family history of it. And as far as cures, there's no cure. They really don't know what kind of causes the disease. Most people were, the old idea and a lot of ideas is that it's hormone driven. So there's a lot of hormone treatments that you'll find very ineffective. And more ideas and research and factual knowledge is coming out that it is actually an autoimmune disease. So it's traveling kind of through immune system, affecting immune system, relating to other immune system. A lot of women who have endometriosis always also have autoimmune diseases such as MS, fibromyalgia, a lot of allergies, things like that. So I think that's kind of interesting, especially for women who have failed all of the hormone treatments such as myself, and you keep saying, well, why does it keep coming back? Why does it keep growing? Even if you've had surgery and they take it all out, why does it keep coming back? Where does it come from? So with that said, I'm just going to get a little bit into my own personal story with it, because that'll kind of explain a little bit more some of the treatments and things about it, because I've literally been through it all. So I'm 36 now. I was diagnosed when I was 16, 20 years ago. I first started having symptoms when I was 13, when I had my first period. So it's 23 years now. And when I first had my first period, I was like a lot of girls. It was irregular, it was painful, it was confusing. I didn't know what was going on, and I had doctors tell me, this is normal, you're a woman, this is what it's like, deal with it. But when it's that painful and it keeps you home from school and activities with your friends and you're sick and the pain lasts long before you're, after your period, it's, coming before it, you're having a lot of other issues and symptoms, like something's not right. So flash forward a few doctors. I actually honestly don't know how many I went to. I just know that one of them finally said, hey, maybe this is endometriosis. And before that, it was just birth control thrown at me. Try this. We'll just try to regulate your period and that will help everything. And it never did. And it was just terrible. Until one doctor said, hey, maybe you have this thing called endometriosis. And I thought, well, let's find out. I've heard everything else in the book. I can't tell you how many times I went to the ER and different doctors and for the pain, and I was diagnosed with so many other things: pelvic inflammatory disease, IBS, hysteria, things that it's in your head, you're overreacting, you're a pill seeker, you just have a high tolerance to pain, all of it. So when I finally had surgery and I was diagnosed with endometriosis, it changed my world. Not only did I have an answer to everything, but I also knew I had a lifelong uncurable disease. The magnitude of that at 16 was very heavy. Not only was I already kind of the sick girl, missed a lot of school, had issues, I didn't know anybody else who was dealing with the same thing as me. Nobody knew what this was or had heard of it. So when I was diagnosed and in high school, it made it really hard. And especially being a girl and a woman, and you're coming into your hormones and your sexuality and all of that, and all yours in pain, you feel broken. There's stages to endometriosis. So they're rated, but they kind of don't use it because they're not exactly relative all the time. 1 to 4, 4 being the worst. When I was diagnosed, I was a 4. I had it pretty bad already, basically everywhere throughout my pelvic region. Things were stuck together. It didn't look good. On a side note, I will tell you that the stages don't definitively matter because they range on women's experiences. You can be a stage 4 and have it everywhere and sticking to everything and huge growths, but have no pain or no symptoms and not even know you have it, or you can have the most minute spot and have the worst pain ever. So it's really personal to different women's experiences, and so it's hard to kind of rate that, but I will tell you mine was bad. It felt bad, and it really affected me. One of the drugs that doctors love to use is called Lupron. It is an injectable, basically chemotherapy that is a hormone-driven drug. It makes you go through menopause. So when I was 16 years old, not only was I diagnosed with this disease, I was put into menopause, which was super fun in high school. I gained a lot of weight. I was super moody. I was stressed out. I was pretty, and I'm 16. I'm a 16-year-old girl. It was a horrible combination, my poor mother. It didn't work for me. So basically, the next few years is try a hormone therapy, doesn't work. Grows back, you're in pain, have a surgery. Try a hormone therapy, grows back, pain, have another surgery. When I was 18, I went through another round of Lupron. I can't remember which one was longer, the 16 or the 18, but I know it was a total of 2 years, which is longer than anybody is supposed to be on it, which causes a lot of damage, and there's a lot of women that have a lot of permanent damage from it. I lost all of my breast tissue, which I'll tell you kind of leads up to other stuff later. But the fact is, it completely changed my life. Like going through school, trying to get through dances and a high school boyfriend and graduating high school and then trying to go to college and like manage through classes and just being the sick girl who was always in pain. I saw so many different doctors. You name it, I saw them. it went on to my bowels. I saw, gastroenterologists. I had so many different pain management doctors. I had OBGYNs. I flew to Wisconsin for a special surgery where they literally like burn off the entire lining of your abdomen, called a peritoneal resection, which in hopes that it would kill anything from growing back in the pelvic cavity, but it didn't help. So lots of years of that, going back and forth. I think a lot of women know this struggle. It's the same struggle that we deal with now. Doctors don't know how to treat it. I will also tell you on a side note, I have had adenomyosis, which is, they say, endometriosis' sister. It's basically endometriosis, or that tissue similar in the walls of the muscle of the uterus. So mine was kind of tenfold. So for me, I was looking at options of hysterectomy. By the time I had so many surgeries, so many things had been stuck together, taken apart, so much scar tissue, that I had lost a few organs by then, and it was like, well, let's just take the uterus. Let's see if that can help the pain and some of the symptoms. And I'm pretty sure it was never diagnosed, but they were pretty sure I probably could never have had children. I had to go into therapy when I was 16 after the first surgery to kind of deal with the magnitude of how bad the disease was and kind of what my future looked like there. So that was something I already kind of knew. And so when the idea of a hysterectomy came up, I said, just take whatever, in hopes of trying to make this not spread anymore and get some relief. So 26, I had a complete hysterectomy. They took everything, including appendix, remaining ovary. I had a right side ovary that was left that was severely adhered into my abdominal wall that the doctor had to basically dig out, remove everything, and threw me into menopause again at 26 years old. Severe menopause, because I am so young, or was so young then. I'm still young to go through menopause. It was way worse. It was a very drastic change, and so that was a whole new set of fun issues to deal with, as far as managing hormones and trying to figure that out. And that has been years now, 10 years of still balancing that out. I'm still in menopause. I still have to try to figure out my hormones, still trying to find the right combination. I have to constantly change them up because your body changes. Let me tell you about some of the other issues that I went through. The pain. Endometriosis is one of the top 10 most painful diseases that are out there. It feels like burning, knives, stabbing, barbed wire twisting inside of you, being carved out like a pumpkin, aching, being sawed in half. I mean, it's the worst pain you could ever imagine, and sometimes it's all the time, and it never goes away. So you seek everything. I mean, I tried everything. You name it, and one of the big things was pain pills, and it's a huge issue in America and our nation is the opioid crisis. And I will be the first to tell you I was addicted to pain pills for many years. I had a pain doctor that was feeding them to me like candy and said, you're justified, you're in pain, you deserve them, don't let anybody tell you any differently. But I had no life anymore. I was not working, I went on disability, I was trying to wait for a surgery, I was passing out everywhere, I couldn't barely drive, but it was like that, or the disease was so bad. But at some point that stuff, it changes you and it makes things way worse. And for me, I reached a plateau where I said, I can't do this anymore. And the options were, I could cut the nerve. so I wouldn't feel anything anymore. I could have a pain pump inserted permanently. They were all really drastic to me. I had tried yoga, which does help. I'm a fan of that. You have to kind of find the right one that works for you. Acupuncture, if you find the right acupuncturist, that has really helped me. Meditation, eating right, changing your diet is a big thing, knowing what causes the inflammation as far as the endo diet, which I will get into later in another video. Meditation, and also figuring out where does this come from. A lot of mental health, a lot of issues of your past, or things that you have to look at with your relationships or loving yourself. You know, I've gone to a lot of therapy my whole entire life to deal with this and kind of figure out, why do I keep getting sick? Why do I keep getting this disease? Why does it keep coming back? What's it trying to tell me? What's it trying to tell my body? What do I need to change in myself to not have this anymore? Also, with all of the intense stress on the system and chronic pain and years of that, it has completely fried my adrenal system. Cortisone levels are very low, and it's something I have to monitor now and take a lot of vitamins and supplements. And iron is low, vitamin D is low. You have to take calcium, DHEA, things for, you know, depression, the hormones. You know, there's a laundry list of things that long-term it causes, as far as things it takes away or it makes deficient in your life, especially with the hysterectomy. But it's a lot of stress on our system, and it causes a lot of other things. So it's really devastating in that way, because it's not just, you know, one thing. Sorry, that's my feet. It's not, it's me moving on the chair. Anyways, moving forward. So I was 26 when I had the hysterectomy, and it really changed my life. I felt for the first few years I was normal. I was basically pain-free. I kind of was symptom-free. I mean, there was still bloating, there's still some of the stuff, like some of the scar tissue and things like that are issues. But basically I felt a lot better. I moved to Hawaii with a partner, a boyfriend out here, and had a couple of years out here that were great. And then the familiar friend kept creeping in, and I started noticing more of the pain coming back, the bloating, some of the hormone stuff. What was really crazy is I was starting to sync up a little bit with the women at my work when they were on their cycles, even though I didn't have mine, but I started having those PMS symptoms, which was like impossible. I didn't have any of my parts anymore. Yeah, I was on synthetic hormones, but that would not happen. So something was up. I went to a few doctors. I remember one out here, I went to just a normal OBGYN, and I said, I think I might have endometriosis back. And she laughed at me and said, you had a hysterectomy. There's no way you could have endometriosis back. That, you know, that cures it. I knew better though. I knew when I had the hysterectomy, it's basically a 50-50 chance it might come back or might not. And with my history of it coming back and coming back, 10 surgeries later, failed treatments later, I thought, yeah, of course it can come back. And I'm sorry, but we know our bodies. We know our bodies, and if that's one thing women should know, is we need to trust our gut and where we're at. And if a doctor tells you it's wrong, you need to walk out that door. And that's what I did. Never went back to that doctor. Anyways, found, you know, same thing out here. Went through a couple rounds of doctors trying to find somebody who finally listened to me and said, hey, you could be right. You might have it back. And we don't have anybody out here who's qualified to do a surgery or to look in there and figure it out and really treat you honestly. Hawaii's healthcare system, another video, is quite different out here. It is a little bit like a different world. It is I don't want to say, but a kind of third world. I work in healthcare out here, so I will tell you, and have been on the other spectrum as a patient, but the lack of knowledge, awareness, and research and accessibility out here is a huge issue. And going through what I did out here as getting the disease again and going through the rounds of all the doctors who didn't know anything and didn't have a resource of a good surgeon or anybody who really knew about endometriosis out here to help me. No team of specialists. There was no good, there's not good pain management for endometriosis, not out here. And I work at a pain clinic. And there isn't good hormones. There isn't good gastroenterology. There is no good real pelvic floor therapy, at least not on my island. Some of, Oahu has some better care out there. But it was extremely frustrating. I went through the gamut of people who didn't know anything. And I came from the mainland where I had already been through this. And I said, I know what's going on. I know it's back. Nobody's listening to me. You guys have to help me. And if there's no surgeon out here who can do it, you guys need to get me to a surgeon who can on the mainland. So I had to be my own health advocate, and it took 2 years. I don't know how many different doctors. I had to fly to other islands, see specialists who were horrible, and I finally was able to have an excision surgery with a specialist in Washington who was amazing, who changed my life and gave it back to me. I'm not symptom free again, but I'll tell you, sure enough, I had endometriosis back. In fact, I had what's called ovarian remnant syndrome, ORS, which I had never heard of before. But basically, my OBGYN, God love her back on the mainland, who did my hysterectomy, who dug out my ovary on the right side, didn't dig all the cells out. It was so adhered, and she wasn't an expert. So she left some of the cells. The cells grew back, which created another ovary basically that started functioning again, and it caused hormones, made me feel like I was cycling again. It grew a giant endometrioma on top of it. I also had another cyst that grew on the top of my cervix, scar tissue, adhesions, endometriosis everywhere again 5 years later after the complete hysterectomy. So I was very thankful to find an expert, Dr. Cindy Mossbrucker in Gig Harbor, Washington. She used to practice in Hawaii actually for a little bit and now out there. So she has the connection and has some of the ties and understands the health system. I was really lucky to go there. Some other of the women in our Facebook Hawaii group have been to see her. There's some amazing surgeons on the West Coast, up and down, that we have options to try to get to, but it's not easy out here. Insurance is a huge issue, trying to get there, trying to prove that we're worth paying getting over there or to have a surgery. We have no excision specialists out here, and that's the gold standard of surgery. There's ablation and excision surgery. Ablation basically burns disease off the top. It doesn't get anything underneath or in the cells, and that's why it can grow back and come back, and nobody should be doing ablation surgery anymore, but there's not as many excision specialists out there. And so excision surgery is cutting it deep down, digging it out so it doesn't grow back. So that is the gold standard of surgery. It is the better option. It has a higher success rate. That's what I had. I'm very hopeful that the endometriosis will not come back after that. Sometimes it takes a couple of excision surgeries. But it wasn't easy, and I had to do a lot of it myself, and I think a lot of women and girls out here don't know the process and how to do that, and I want to be able to help with that. So leading into what I want to do for endometriosis moving forward, moving out here, I fell in love with Hawaii, and when I went through my experience, I really felt the need to make a difference and do something more out here to help. Whether that is get an excision surgeon out here once a month, if anything, to do surgeries, bring more skilled pelvic floor therapists out here, get into the schools, meet with the school nurses, have, talk to the kids in the classrooms about it and what it is. Handing out brochures to all the doctor's offices, the gynecologist's office, talking to the pain management clinics about how to manage the pain. Talking to a lot of the doctors about how to set up these referrals to get women to excision surgery. The whole care of the before and the after, there's a lot of lack of that out here, and it's the small stuff I feel like I can help with. Somewhere on some platform, I might not be able to cure endometriosis or find a cause, but I can pay it forward and try to help women however I can. So this is my first step. I am planning a support group meeting, which I was planning in March, but got canceled because of COVID. So anyways, we're going to do a virtual one. Duh. I just need to get it going and find the motivation to do this stuff. And so look for a virtual support group meeting coming up. I will let everybody know, and we'll do a good time for that. And then also everybody stay tuned for more videos and more of what I'm doing and just kind of my mission moving forward. So with that said, thank you for bearing with me. This was my first video and the first take, so I hope it's okay. And salute, cheers, and I love you all.